I good to go, Alan? 15 years ago, I preached on the gospel reading that you just heard from Matthew chapter 18, verses 21 to 35, Jesus' instruction to Peter about forgiveness and the strange story of the unforgiving slave. On that occasion, 205, on that occasion, it happened that Sunday we were appointed to read Matthew 18, 21 to 35. It happened that Sunday fell on the 4th anniversary of 9/11. It was September the 11th, that Sunday, and we were reading this gospel. And I couldn't think of a better or more challenging passage to reflect on than Matthew 18, 21 to 35 on the anniversary of 9/11. It seemed an extraordinarily propitious time to be thinking about the question about the topic of forgiveness. And it may not be all that less appropriate today to be thinking about forgiveness. I was talking to a person who works in the counseling field last week, and I asked them whether they felt that their practice had changed or the issues coming up had changed over the past 6 to 8 months, whether there was a dominant kind of theme that seemed to be coming up. And right away, they replied, yeah, there is. I said, what is it? And they said, people are angry. I said, angry? What are they angry at? They're angry at COVID. Now think about that. Maybe we need to forgive COVID, or at least to think about what that might mean. When I preached on this passage 15 years ago, it was back in the good old days when I used to write sermons out in their entirety. It was a long exercise through the week, and I don't know whether changing that practice has caused an improvement or a decline in the quality of the preaching you get, but it certainly changed it. And but because I wrote them out in longhand, I know exactly everything I said. So I'm going to read it. No, I'm not going to read it all to you. But I am going to tell you the title. I used to give my sermons titles, and now, thanks to Zoom and the internet, Seal McLean, who wonderfully posts YouTube sermons on our website every week, has started pestering me for titles again. So I have to come up with titles every Sunday for my sermon. I don't know what the title is for this Sunday yet. I'll find out tomorrow. But on 2015, the title of my sermon for Matthew 18, 21 to 35 was Forgiveness, Absolute, Unconditional, and Never-Ending. Oh. Absolute, unconditional, and never-ending. Seems to me that there's a little bit of an edge to that title, which was carried on throughout the sermon. It was pretty hard-hitting and perhaps a little bit more dogmatic, and maybe a little bit more black and white, maybe a little bit more rigid than I might preach today. But having said that, I do think that's essentially the vision that Jesus gives us for forgiveness, that it is unconditional. It doesn't depend upon the person we need to forgive changing first. It doesn't even depend, apparently, upon the person coming and asking for forgiveness. It doesn't depend upon them being better. It doesn't depend upon anything. It simply depends upon the person who is doing the forgiving. But if I were to preach that sermon today, I would want to begin, I think, with a caveat to that really challenging vision of forgiveness that Jesus presents. And the caveat would be actually a quote from from another place just a little bit earlier in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 10. Because in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 10, in verse 14, Jesus said, "If anyone will not welcome you or listen to your words, shake off the dust from your feet as you leave that house or town." So my caveat to forgiveness that is absolute, unconditional, and never-ending is that we must recognize and acknowledge and take account of the fact that there are relationships sometimes in life that are simply broken and that have to be let go. That there are times when relationships cannot be healed. Now, we may tend to move a little bit too quickly to that place and to assuming that a relationship falls into that category simply because it's awkward or difficult or unpleasant. But we need to keep in mind that reality. It's like so many of Jesus' teachings. He puts out this incredible, stirring, stellar, hard vision. But then there's always a measure of grace and a place where we can recognize the inability of that vision to be fulfilled. But forgiveness in Matthew chapter 18 is not just as Peter would have it 7 times. Peter thought he was being so magnanimous, thought he was being so gracious. I'm going to forgive 7 times. That's a lot of forgiveness. But Jesus takes it and amplifies it exponentially. Not just 7 times, but 77 times. It goes on into infinity, this forgiveness. And there's a reason why I think Jesus puts such an emphasis on the essential necessity of forgiveness. I said last week that in the whole of Matthew chapter 18, Jesus puts an enormous amount of emphasis, an enormous amount of stress on the importance of preserving human relationships. Jesus does not want us to walk away from human relationships easily. And I think there's a reason why Matthew 18 puts such stress on the importance, the necessity, the essential nature of staying connected in human relationship. It's because human relationships are the place where we get to grow up. They're the place where we learn to mature. And if we are forever walking away from relationships because they are awkward or difficult or uncomfortable, we condemn ourselves to infancy. We allow our likes and our dislikes to dictate our mood, our lives, our sense of ourselves, and when we do that, we are simply a toddler who from time to time throws a temper tantrum. See, relationships are the training ground in freedom. They're the place where we have the ability to learn not to be controlled by external circumstances or by other people. That's why Jesus said in Matthew chapter 5, verse 39, if anyone strikes you on one cheek, turn the other also. That's actually a definition of freedom. That's what it looks like to be free. No need to get even. No need to prove your point. No need to demonstrate how smart I am. But simply the ability to find within myself that place of deep, abiding steadiness that is not rocked or swayed or pushed by external circumstance. See, that's what the slave in the story that Jesus told didn't get. He believed he needed to impose his will to get his way by manipulating those around him. And it's important not to get hung up on the details of this slightly gruesome story of a slave who is forgiven and then doesn't forgive and so is thrown into eternal torture. The reality that Jesus wants to point to here is simply that when I withhold forgiveness, I suffer. I'm not hurting you by refusing to forgive you. I'm hurting myself. I'm the one who is in pain when I can't let go of the wrongs that have been done to me or that I perceive to have been done to me. The word that Jesus uses for forgiveness is aphiemi. And aphiemi means literally to send away. That thing, that action, that word, that behavior towards me is sent away. I don't need it anymore. I don't need to let it go inside and continue to churn and stir and grind at the heart of my being. Aphiemi also means to loose. Essentially, to let go, to release. Forgiveness is divine release. I am released, and if you receive it, you are released by forgiveness. Forgiveness lets go of the need to get it. It doesn't mean that an action or a behavior or a word or a choice someone has made may not still hurt. The hurt may go on forever. You may have to carry the hurt of a broken relationship for the rest of your life. But you don't need to carry bitterness. We don't need to carry resentment. Those are the things that we let go. We don't let go of hurt because hurt is real and hurt is true. And hurt is another one of the ways that we grow and mature and develop into strong, deep, profound people. We never hurt, we never grow. Forgiveness is releasing. Last week we read in Matthew chapter 18, verse 18, Jesus' words, "Truly I tell you, whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. And whatever you forgive on earth will be loosed in heaven." Those things that we bind are bound in some vast cosmic realm of hurt and pain and bitterness and resentment. Those things that we can lay down, that we can let go of, that we can release, set us free, and allow us to develop that deep inner place where we don't have to be angry at COVID anymore. It's just what's happening. Where we don't have to take vengeance on the poor, warped, demented violence that caused 9/11, or the poor, warped, demented violence that ensued after 9/11. We don't need to put all that right. We can't put all that right. It's the past, it's done, it's over. We can release that. And that's really, as funny as it is being here or watching on a computer screen, that is why we need to gather. We need to gather because in a moment you will all acknowledge that you have all fallen short of the most basic standards of life, of goodness, of truth, and beauty. You will say with me, and I will say with you, most merciful God, we confess We have messed up, failed, fallen short, not hit the mark. And after we have all together acknowledged our failings and our shortcomings, I will stand and declare to you and to you at home on Zoom that that is forgiven. It is all gone. It is all that you walk out of here, that way, you go that way, don't forget, go that way. You walk out of here or you turn your computer off at home and you are absolutely new from that moment. You start, you'll mess it up before you get to the bottom of the stairs here, but from the moment that you take into your heart the reality that we all fall short and are all unconditionally forgiven, you are totally free of your past. It's done. You may want to go and make amends to someone. You may want to go and try to put something right that has been wrong. You may need to go and confront someone and tell them the truth. But you go without bitterness, without resentment, without any need to get even. You go in the freedom of the Spirit that is our true destiny as children of God and as followers of Jesus Christ.